And when people ask me, what would it take for me to run? I tell them the same thing. Pray for me to have clarity in the decision. I don't expect everyone to understand this, but I'm a believer and a follower of Jesus Christ. And that relationship is far more important to me than any political office. For me, the discussion and decision is ultimately not a political one, it's not a financial one, it's not even a practical one. It's a spiritual one.
I'm Ben Swan filling in for Steve Malzberg. As we get closer to the 2016 presidential election, we continue to look at possible candidates that could secure the Republican nomination for president. Today, we turn our attention to that man, Governor Mike Huckabee. Joining me now is Bardella. He's the president of Endeavor Strategic Communications, and C. Edmund Wright, columnist for Breitbart.com and American Thinker. Guys, thanks for being with me.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. All right. So, Mike Huckabee talking there on his show on Fox News about the possibility of running in 2016, asking his viewers to pray for him. So, Edmund, let me start with you. Look, it's one thing to be able to throw your hat into the Republican race. On the Republican side, getting out of the primaries hard enough, then winning a general election. Do you think Mike Huckabee is on track to do this?
No, I think Mike Huckabee is kind of the worst type of niche politician. And I agree with him on the social issues and on issues of faith. But if you look at what he did in 2008, he goes up to Iowa, and the key there is to win the 30% of the Iowa caucus vote that's going to vote for the most overtly religious candidate, regardless of how bad they are on other issues of conservatism. And it's what Rick Santorum did in 2012. So what we have is this Iowa, New Hampshire, and then South Carolina start. And these type candidates like Governor Huckabee, they want to get 30% in Iowa, then take a loss in New Hampshire into South Carolina, where losing New Hampshire is a badge of honor, and try and get the evangelical vote in South Carolina as well. There's no chance it wins nationally. It's just a niche.
I was going to say, and that's not a winning strategy you're describing there. I mean, for those who have tried that in Iowa, as you said, losing New Hampshire as the badge of honor, it doesn't work. I mean, what do you think, Kurt? In this position, do you think that Huckabee is just kind of throwing this out there, red meat to his supporters, drawing up some attention? Remember, Geraldo Rivera, what was it, a few months ago, talked about maybe, possibly running for Senate, and all of that seemed like it was nothing more than just kind of a publicity stunt.
We see this time and time again with figures who also happen to be in the media. I mean, Joe Scarborough has been known to flirt with the idea of running for public office. Chris Matthews at times has been recruited potentially to run for Senate in Pennsylvania. Huckabee, of course, his name was out there last time down about potentially running, and he kind of does this, well, I won't I game. And at the end of the day, it gets a lot of attention. People write about it. He can sell some books. He can get more ratings on his TV show. People pay attention to what he's saying. And then he generally takes a bow and steps off the stage. I mean, this field that we have right now is one of the most conservative fields, I think, that we've ever had, when you have Ted Cruz and you have Marco Rubio and you have Scott Walker and all of these very conservative people, Rick Santorum. There isn't a real great space for Huckabee to fill. A void doesn't exist in the Republican Party right now, where he becomes a natural person that people would flock to anyway. And when you look at the speaking engagements he's done recently at some of these values summits and values events, the people who've been getting the biggest reception have been Ted Cruz and Rick Perry, not Mike Huckabee.
Well, it's very true. If you think about, I've seen a lot of articles lately about Mitt Romney, and there's a lot of conversation about Mitt Romney. But is it a good strategy, like in the governor's case, to have run for president in 2012 and then to come back and try to run again in 2016? Do people look at you as maybe damaged goods at that point? Or is there, Edmund, a possibility that, well, maybe he didn't get it quite right the first time, he's more seasoned now? As you know, it takes a lot of effort to build that national infrastructure you need in order to be able to run for president.
Well, I think it goes case by case. In the situation of Mitt Romney, he ran an awful campaign in 2012. He had a good point right there around the first debate. Then he totally abandoned that aggressive strategy. I don't think there's any appetite for Mitt Romney among the Republican primary voters. I think they ended up thinking, in retrospect, maybe a fighter like Newt would have been a better choice. Not that the Republican establishment would have ever gone along with that. But no, I don't think in Mitt Romney's case there's any future in 2016.
But in terms of at least the structure he would have in place, and again, I'm not advocating for it, but the structure's there. Mike Huckabee has not maintained any kind of political structure, has he? I mean, obviously, again, he ran in 2012, so he had some structure in place. But if you don't maintain and take care of that as if you're tending a garden, with the intention of running again in, say, 4 years, or in his case, 6 years. He's talking about trying to run in 2016. It just doesn't seem like it's going to make a lot of sense.
Well,
and I think I said he ran in 2012. It was 2008 with Mike Huckabee.
2008.
Yeah, I said 2012. It's 2008.
Well, and I think people very much underestimate that running for president of the United States, which is almost a billion-dollar enterprise now to run for president of the United States, you have to have an entire apparatus and organization in place to successfully do it. Just the nuances of getting your name on the ballot in every state and knowing all the election laws that exist in each state that are very different. It's an incredibly intensive, labor-intensive operation, and you have to have an organization. And you look at the people who are really plausibly thinking about running for president, Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, they're building an apparatus to do so and to execute it. They're not just showing up in interesting places saying, hey, maybe I'll run, maybe I won't. They're actually doing the groundwork, the things that aren't reported, the things that you don't see but are happening, courting activists, building an infrastructure, a national infrastructure, a national fundraising operation, all those things, the mechanics that it takes to run for president. Mike Huckabee's not doing that, and frankly, neither is Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney has not said he intends to run for a third time. I don't think that he would do that. And like I said, we have a very strong field, a lot of candidates already out there. One of those guys will emerge as the leader going forward.
Yeah, and as you point out, Kurt, too, this is a situation where you do have to maintain that structure. A lot of folks won't even remember, in 2012, Rick Santorum wasn't even on the ballot in a number of different states, including in Ohio. There were a number of counties where he wasn't on the ballot. So he was able to be in some counties, but not in others. The only two Republicans in Virginia who were able to run in the primary were Ron Paul and Mitt Romney. Nobody else was even on the ballot in Virginia. So it is a labor-intensive effort. Let me ask you guys this. In terms of the evangelical view, though, because evangelicals clearly are looking for a champion. They're looking for someone who's going to be able to stand up, advocate their positions. And I think certainly as we see kind of this growing international issue with fundamentalism on the Muslim side, ISIS and the remains of Al-Qaeda, there are evangelicals who want that. Is there a strong evangelical candidate out there who could grab up that particular group of voters along with a general election kind of independent, general election voter? Is there someone out there?
I think the only one out there that might fit that would be Ted Cruz. He's not an evangelical candidate per se. His dad goes around and gives a lot of evangelical type speeches, and clearly he was raised that way. But he's a well-rounded candidate. He has the chance to build a national following and a national organization. And while I'm not sure that I agree with Kurt that with social media it's quite as important as it used to be, it certainly helps to have that national organization, but it really also helps to have the potential for a broad appeal. And I don't see Huckabee or Santorum, for that matter, having any broad appeal potential.
I think
Go
one of the things to keep in mind is one of the interesting changes we've seen in the Republican electorate in the last 3 election cycles is the power of the Tea Party organization itself. And the block of voters that potentially used to be just the evangelical bloc are now also Tea Party voters. And the influence of the evangelicals has kind of dropped off. I mean, there was a Gallup poll done last year that showed 77% of Americans believe that religion itself as an issue and as a motivator has completely depreciated in terms of importance and influence. And I think a lot of the voters that would traditionally fall into one block of being evangelical, well, they're now split amongst the Tea Party. And that's where, as was said a minute ago, Ted Cruz is someone who speaks to that.
Yeah, well, and as you pointed out, with the Tea Party, there is a mix there, certainly. You have the evangelicals who are a part of it. You also have those small government conservatives. And Governor Huckabee wasn't exactly a small government conservative when he was governor of Arkansas. So, you do have some issues there as well. I will tell you this, knowing some of the folks over at Fox News Channel, there are some stomachs that turn a little bit and they get nervous whenever someone who's on air starts also talking about politics. So I wonder if he'll get one of those. You either need to make a decision or get out, but stop proselytizing from our airwaves. What do you guys think on that?
Well, there's no question that at some point, if he really does carry on with the idea that I might run, that the people at Fox News will sit him down and say, listen, your contract probably precludes the ability to run for office and still be a Fox News host of any kind. They'll come a make or break point where we'll have to unequivocally say what his intentions are, because Fox can't keep him on the air. They did the same thing with Sarah Palin last cycle too.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Gentlemen,
yeah,
appreciate
exactly right. And Kurt, to the Tea Party point, I would say you're absolutely right. there's many flavors of Tea Party. It sort of started with that Rick Santelli flavor that Matt Drudge and Rush Limbaugh made famous in 3 hours, and then it's kind of spread out from there. And there is an evangelical wing to it, but that's not the heart of the Tea Party.
Gentlemen, appreciate your time very much on this issue. Kurt Bardella and C. Edmund Wright, thanks for your time this Friday. Have a great weekend.
You too, Ben.
Thanks for letting me be with you today, spending the time with me. Up next is the best of Give Me Five. I'm Ben Swan, and be sure to check me out when you can online at benswan.com. Have a great weekend.